Now, this app, Noesis ASD. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did this app, how long have you been working with this app, this tool?
Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong. It's probably like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Going on 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And so an interesting thing about bringing Allie into the app development is that that's exactly what happened. We wanted her, even before we finished the app, we wanted feedback from her clients and her kids on whether we're on the right track or not. We started out with the National Science Foundation with a small grant to start working on this. And in order to do that, we had to bring in professionals that would understand it better and make us understand it, whether we're doing the right thing or not. And so Allie came in very early and was gracious enough to work with us over the years. And, she's added a lot of great insight to us.
How did you meet Allie? I know that you guys, but how did you guys meet?
I was calling around with autism associations, and she was working with, I've forgotten the name of it now, in New Jersey.
Yeah, ABA Steps in New Jersey, who I'm no longer with, not a big deal. But
Right.
And I think, were we at a conference, Glenn?
Yeah, I think we were.
I think so. And I forget, Regional Center Conference, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you had asked me a few questions, and I remember being like, talk to therapists, because they're the ones that will like push this for you if it's something they really like. Like,
right.
Parents are constantly like, hey, can we do something else when you're not here? Like, they want apps.
So you were at this conference attending. Were you presenting? Were you doing your continuing education? What was the, I'm just trying to understand. Were you presenting, Glenn? What?
No, it was an information conference. I don't think, Allie, I don't think you were presenting at the time. We were just wandering around. And
okay.
I know. I actually came to your table, I think.
Yes, we were promoting.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you had a card, ABA Steps, and I grabbed it, and I had to call you afterwards. So that's how it started. Yeah.
So Glenn tells you, hey, I got this technology, and you're like, really?
No, she looked at me like, you're out of your mind. What?
I kind of did, because a lot of the stuff around social skills, it's getting so much better. It's typically cheesy, and it's not list. It doesn't translate well with the kids we work with, but I am pleasantly surprised.
Wow. Okay. So he drops this on you like, hey, this is what I'm working on, and I need some specialists. I need experts.
Well, I actually asked her, what do you think of this path we're going down? Because our approach from the National Science Foundation was don't preconceive something until you get feedback back from people that you're doing something, going in the right direction. So my presentation to her was, what do you think of this? What do you think of this idea of emotion facial recognition, and whether that's a good way to go? And then if we did go down that road, how would we present it? And again, it was very early. It might have been probably 6 months after that before I actually showed you anything.
Mm-hmm.
So here you're being presented a technology, facial recognition. Most people are kind of like lost or a little scared of technology. You're being told this, and you're like, wow. What was your first reaction?
I mean, this is needed. Like, as a therapist, some of our things are very outdated. I think we're working on it as a community, but I have pictures of kids that are like, smile, like non-smiles like that. So showing them a flashcard of that's not helping them in the long run, right? They're just learning to make a weird looking smile. So I had been literally cutting magazine pictures out for years now, like just actual authentic like faces. And I noticed it was actually hard for kids to then know what that was, because they've only been taught these really cheesy flashcards. So when Glenn brought this up, I was super passionate about it, but I didn't think I was going to hear from you. I really felt like it was conversational, like I didn't expect to hear from him again.
Well, I think what you weren't expecting, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that we turned the camera back on the child, which you'd never seen that before.
Yes.
So it lets the child see his own face to recognize, maybe there's recognition there of the emotions.
Yeah. And I remember saying to you, the research around like video modeling, which is basically that, right? Like, let me see
Right.
what my face is doing, is so good, but it's actually not used a lot because it's hard to always plan your session to be like, let me have you sit in front of a mirror that's
Right.
also super stimulating and have us do facial stuff. Like, that doesn't work. Kids are like, yay, a mirror. Like, it's very rare that you're sitting there with me talking about your face.
Right? Getting the technology all together and then to scale that. And then here you have this technology, and for listeners that are hearing this, I want to kind of preface that this is a technology that is facial recognition that is for autistic development.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell, and engineering emotion, so there can be a real world connectivity and application. So I'm just saying this so that way those that are hearing what we're talking about for the first time, this is what Noesis is. So you're being told, Glenn shares with you this app, this technology as a therapy platform, and you're like, okay, you need, as Glenn said, real world therapists to be able to get their hands in working and developing this. So let's go into that. Yeah.
Well, it started simple. All we had was the emotion recognition of the face, and we had the data points that would read the face. And one of the first things Ali said was, well, that's great, but how are we going to log that? How are we going to see any progress in that? And so kind of light went on, oh, we need a capture, and we need a scale of reading where that's going to go if there's improvement, and for ABA practitioners to actually look at there's progress or not, and somehow see the date you did it, where are you going with that, weekly or daily or wherever. And that was all Ali. She just gave us that. So that was a big breakthrough for us at that point. Go ahead, Ali.
And then, thank you. And then I think there would be like a new iteration, and then Glenn would let me try it. And it was just, like, you need someone to really be doing it. So there was a few kids, remember, Glenn, were like, they weren't really like responding, like it didn't pick up what they were doing, because everyone's face is different, right?
No, right.
And I forgot, weren't we saying at one part like eyebrow furrow or something? And I was like, I would never use that word. Can we make it like, I know it's the proper word, but I probably wouldn't. I've never used that like in real speech, and I probably wouldn't identify it that way. Yeah. So a lot of feedback like that, like what can we use that kids are actually going to know we're talking about? Because I would never be like, 10, can you eyebrow furrow for me? It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so the difference is that you guys had this in video, an actual examination, actual example, and then the feedback real time versus a flashcard.
Exactly. And everyone wants technology. So, that's a win in itself.
So previously it was flashcards, or previously, before this came along.
Yeah, or like my face, which I'm just one static image, so that's not even that helpful.
Right.
It wasn't enough.
It's a social and cultural developmental cognition, right? And so you're doing this by a piece of paper,
right,
in a picture, and now say, be this emotion, right? So this is what therapists have been using all these years.
Yep.
And you started working and being involved in this 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Glenn, you've been on this for like what, 6-7 years?
No, four and a half or so.
4.5.
Because we started with a different generic. We weren't focusing on autism when we started, and then we had a major pivot just before National Science Foundation grant, where we saw this is much more applicable than what we were doing before. And then when you said just now, Ten, you said, the social implications of it. Another aha moment for us, thanks to Allie, was, the kids are looking at faces in previously, and I guess, Allie, I'm sure you were showing them age-appropriate faces so they would relate to it better. And your comment to us was, we only had one trainer. When I say trainer, there was one pre-recorded loop of each facial expression or each emotional expression on the app. And Allie said, well, one of my kids just doesn't like that face, just doesn't like that person.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't relate to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need more trainers. And it took me probably 7 months to get 12 new trainers.
Interesting.
And it's very difficult to get them accurate. To get people to trainers to make accurate faces so that they go to 100% or they go to 50% or whatever.
Interesting.
And so we had to get accurate faces, and they were all consistent. Finally, we went back and said, hey, we got new trainers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think her kids probably would react to an age-appropriate face instead.
Yeah.
And then the other component that became obvious was, oh, well, we're sitting here assuming, trying to make 100% on every facial expression, where some kids, they need to understand it's not just always 100%, especially in real life. It could be 30%, it could be 50%, it could be 10%, depending on, if somebody has a wry little smile, it doesn't mean it's 100% smile like they're goofy. So we went back and changed the algorithm so that you could modify that. And you could, let's say Allie wanted to grab, hey, make a small, a little bit of a smile. I mean, without getting too technical with the kid, she would be able to grab that. So now we could grab any level from 0 to 100 of an expression, and we were hoping that would be a cognitive recognition of all that. So all that happened in the last 2.5 years. I mean, we started with nothing, and now we've gotten sophisticated, in the backside. Now, unfortunately, with that, we have to have training videos to show people how to use it because it got really complicated.
Well, you have advanced technology, that's right out of the gates, being able to have on a handheld device. That's the point of this conversation, is that with parents looking for a different means of therapy and program, and a alternative or new tech, or let's just say this for what it is: technology for autism, for their autistic child. This is it. So it's not like a video game and it just goes through this mundane red, blue, orange, pick, smile, angry, but it has this means of identifying the profile of the user. This is what's really fascinating and powerful, that it's not just a, going back to the mechanical, pick the one that's smiling and not, but it has this means of identifying the patient, the child, and going through a programming curriculum. You're able to log all this. You're able to have different recordings and progress, so the parents as well as the therapist can see how long they've been at a certain task or such. What have you seen the difference, Allie, in using this versus the traditional just, playing card?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't have to sell it as hard, right? This is exciting and fun. It's a game. They want to do it. So I'm not
the kids aren't being drug into a boring.
This built in. You're also teaching emotions at a way larger level. So normally I would have to, teach with the emotion card. Maybe we'd watch a show and I try to see if they can identify the emotion. I would have to think of like 10 different ways to just be teaching the one skill that Noesis is teaching. Like they have it already scaffolded and built in. They're like, okay, can you identify emotions at all? Do you even know them? Okay, great. Now let's try to see if you can do it in your face. Do you know what it looks like on other people's faces? Do you know what parts of your face to even light up? And that's so big because I talk a lot about whole body listening, and really to listen, like I can tell you're both listening to me because you're looking at me and your face looks rested and you're even nodding your head sometimes, right? So those skills were really hard to show kids unless I could show them on something like, hey, look, you're actually not doing it. And here, I'll show you how you're not doing it. Also, because it's on the iPad and it's like fun. It's more like we can do it really silly and do it wrong. So then when I'm pointing out, maybe like a finite correction, it feels better. It's not like as intense because we've already done really silly things. I've also struggled to get 100%, which I don't know what that says about me, but I think that's really nice for the kids I work with too, to see like, yeah, like your face is very dynamic. That's what's great about everyone, and everyone's face is different. And let's work on this together. I don't think I had a way to really show that before. And again, it was just me, maybe 2 other therapists, but those are the faces that they were seeing for these programs. And now it's up to like 12 different faces, which makes a big difference.
Well, let's be real too. I mean, like most health solutions are outdated. Most health therapies are, period. And so here, it's pretty radical that, you have this technology, and which I'm still like just so blown away about in this small little compact handheld where we are in today's world, to have all this computation for this this condition, for this clinical application. Not many industries have technology like this so advanced, and also for the field, because you as a professional, you can have all your clients logged on this application. You have all the activities, so you can, for your medical and clinical reports, you could have all that history available. So this is what they advanced, this is what they've done. Now I guess, especially for home learning, right? This can be a wonderful addendum to a at-home therapy clinic session.
Right.
Allie, you said something earlier that you were struggling to get 100%. Well, if you remember, the iPhone and the iPad didn't have fast enough processing back in 2016, 2015.
Okay.
So we had to wait for technology to catch up. I mean, our algorithm was accurate. We were grabbing 30 frames per second, but it was a lag, sometimes up to, I don't know, 10%, 15, 20% late. So we would miss the immediate expression, the micro expression, we'd miss it because the technology was late. Now, anything past iPhone 7 or iPad at OS, what is it, 13, I think, it's so fast, it's accurate, much more accurate.
I honestly don't know, we're just we can talk tech real quick, but what other type of app uses the abilities, processing power of the modern devices, and this is pretty rare even in that category and circumstance. But so let's go back to the therapist world here. I know, Glenn, that you said there was a autism association that you worked with, and you had patients that used this. They had like 30,000 patients.
No, the Tennessee group, the Triad Association had 32,000 kids that they were trying to push this to. And so we were really pushing hard with that. There's a lady, Dr. Weaver at Vanderbilt University was recognized, hey, there's something here. And that's the hard part for me, just to get it recognized that, hey, maybe there's something here we can use. Because a lot of people are skeptical, including therapists. We're happy with what we're using. So yeah, she turned around and recognized it and was trying to push it out to those kids in Tennessee.
Ali, are you affiliated with any type of autism association, just out of curiosity?
No, I mean, like I have my own private practice, and I am a big supporter of UCLA Peers. They're an awesome group, and Social Thinking in General by Michelle Garcia Winner.
Mm-hmm. What would you?
Yeah, Elizabeth Longacre is the one that heads up Peers, I believe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What would you share with first to therapists with autistic patients? Working with children, what would you share? What would you tell them about what your experiences are in this technology?
Yeah, well, I think what Glenn was saying before, sometimes we're all really busy, so learning a new technology can be a little intimidating. A lot of like data collecting softwares are constantly changing, so I think there's a little bit of hesitation there. I will say though, it's really worth it to learn it, because now I have all this data that when I go to write a report, it's super easy. I also can now see where a breakdown is. So right. I before was able to be like, okay, you know what happy means. You can tell me what it means to be happy. But then when I have you smile that you're happy, you look like you're almost scared. Like, right? So then it's like they understood that. I kind of did what I was supposed to. Like, you can use it in a sentence, you can identify all these things, but now I can really give you feedback that you're into to get your face where it needs to be for maybe like a socially appropriation. And when you think about it, that's huge. It's something like 93% of your language is nonverbal. So if you're making a mismatched happy, even if you're talking about being happy and you're doing it right, people aren't going to read it because they're going to get super confused by the smile. So I think
called it a Duchenne smile or something, right? I think.
Yeah. So I think just, like if you think about it that way, this is just such an important skill that I at least previously didn't have means to teach, because I felt like when I used a mirror, it was too distracting. And this has enough of a like rewarding component, like, something lights up, letting them know they did it right and blah, blah, blah. So I think that that's just really helpful, and it's worth learning the technology.
So you mentioned
another thing that Ali added. I'm touting you because you were so integral with helping us with this, Ali. That we had a really simple game at one point on the back side of the app, and it was only, I think, 50 levels or something really simple. And you said, well, some of your kids got through it so quick,
right,
that they got bored with it. And so now we're up to 525 levels and much more robust game. So they can take what they're doing, learning with their own faces, and relate it hopefully to the game. Mm-hmm, so they can switch on the game one day and spend a whole sorts of time with all of the training faces that are making those expressions and sub-expressions. Every emotion has a sub-expression. And if the kid understands the sub-expression, then they go, oh, that's how you make that. That goes back to the autistic kid I live with. I mentioned that before to you, Ten, that he didn't get fear, he didn't get anger. He was really struggling, especially with anger, because there are many ways to make an anger face. You can do a lip purse with like that kind of anger, right? Or open mouth anger, or slit eye anger, or open eye anger. So it's a much more complex emotion. So we've included all of those things. So you could make anger in many different ways.
So you're able to have, as a therapist, this report, these metrics.
Well, that, and Glenn just brought up another really good point. Index cards cannot show finite things that you do with your face that signify, like, I'm fine. That means a lot different than I'm fine, right? Like, but that's all in my mouth, and tone too. But I'm just saying, like, I can now show this to people who are a little higher functioning, and I can show them those intricacies. I didn't have something like that before. So that's huge.
Yeah.